Hello fellow video game collectors, and welcome to another pickups episode. So today I'm going to be talking about a bunch of games that I picked up at one of my local Goodwill stores. So the first set of games that I found were $5 each, and the first one was Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle 3. So this is a puzzle platformer game featuring none other than Bugs Bunny. So in this game you go through all of the levels, climbing ladders and going through doors, trying to find the keys on each of these levels. All the while you're trying to avoid other Looney Tune characters because if you touch any of them, then you're dead. It's not a bad game, but it does get pretty repetitive and kind of boring after a while. So then I found 4 Game Boy Advance games complete in the box. They are just minty and look brand new. So the first one of those I found was a copy of Risk, Battleship, and Clue. And just to show you the inside of the box, it does have the manual, which just looks factory new, as well as the game, which looks really clean. So this is a multi-cart featuring 3 popular board games on this one singular cart. So of those, you've got Risk, which is a battle against other players for world domination. I used to love playing that board game so much as a kid, although it can really go on for hours and hours and hours. Then there's Battleship, which again is like the board game. You place your ships on the board, then you choose where you want to fire on the enemy side of the board, and if you hit them, it'll show you that, and you try and destroy all of their ships. And then there's Clue, so you just roll the dice and you're moving around from room to room trying to figure out who did the murder. Overall, this is not a terrible handheld version of these board games here. It's definitely worth checking out if you like any of these board games. Then the next one I found was a copy of Monster Trucks. Again, complete in the box, so it has the game, the manual, and everything. And again, these just look practically brand new, right out of the factory. So this is pretty much a very basic racing game, but with monster trucks instead of cars. But it only has a quick mode and a career mode. There is no multiplayer in this game, so you can't link up with any other Game Boy Advances. It doesn't look amazing or anything, you just go over a bunch of ramps and things like that. It's also really easy, but I just cannot recommend this game. It's really not worth getting at all. The next one I got was a copy of Star Wars Flight of the Falcon, as well as here is the cart and the manual. They just look very crispy new. So this game is an on-rails shooter, kind of like Star Fox. You fly through missions doing things like blowing up TIE fighters and fighting against Star Destroyers. But unfortunately, it does get pretty repetitive after a while. It's just not a very good game. The controls aren't great, and it's just not a lot of fun either. So this is just another game that I cannot recommend. And then the last of these complete in the box games that I got was a copy of Star Wars Trilogy, Apprentice of the Force. And again, here is the cartridge and manual. Just like all the others, it looks brand new. So this game is a side-scrolling platformer game. It takes place during the original Star Wars trilogy. The entire game is focused on Luke Skywalker's adventures throughout the movies. Overall, it's not as bad as Flight of the Falcon here, but it's not amazing either. It kind of reminds me a lot of Super Star Wars for the Super Nintendo. So I guess I can say if you like Super Star Wars or you just like Star Wars in general, it might be worth checking out. Then I found a nice stack of mostly PlayStation 1 games for $1.50 each. So unfortunately, it looks like most of these games came from a rental store, but I did check the quality of the discs before I bought them, and they all looked pretty good. So I was okay with that purchase, but there is a bunch of labels and such on these. But the first one I got was a copy of Tomb Raider 3. So as you can see here, it still has labels on it that came from when it was in the rental store, as well as on the disc as well, which might be a pain to clean up. I'm not sure if I'll actually remove those or not. So I haven't played a Tomb Raider game since the very first one on PlayStation 1. I don't think I've actually ever played any of the sequels, including this one. I do hope one day that I'll be able to get all of the games in the series and be able to sit down and play through them all. Especially the newer Tomb Raider games, like on Xbox 360 and Xbox One, because I've heard that those are really good. So, in all honesty though, Tomb Raider 3 is just more of the same of the original trilogy of games. It looks and plays a lot like the first one. You still do lots of climbing and shooting, and of course you still got those terrible tank controls. The levels though are a bit more open than the previous titles, and they're not quite as linear. So probably the absolutely worst thing about this game is that you must have what they call save crystals in the game in order to save. So it's sort of kind of like the old Resident Evil games where you must have ink ribbons in order to be able to save. This is the exact same system, which is just a terrible, terrible save system. And because of the bad save system, it artificially makes this probably the hardest Tomb Raider game in the series, or at least the original trilogy. It definitely makes me very thankful for today's modern games that just have a save anywhere system. You know, it's just a huge pain that you try to make all this progress and you just can't because a developer said, no, you have to have this item in order to be able to save. So overall, if you liked any of the original classic Tomb Raider games, then this is definitely more of the same, and you'll probably like this one as well, even though it is quite challenging. So then the next game that I found was a copy. It's going to be kind of hard to see here, but it's Street Fighter X Plus Alpha, because it is missing the front cover here, but it does have the back label, which does wrap around to the side, so you can see that it is Street Fighter. So it is unfortunate that this game is not complete as it is missing that front cover, but it's still a really good find, especially for $1.50, as this one can go loose for $15 or complete for $25. So the Street Fighter EX series is a spin-off of the main Street Fighter games. The major difference is that the game is in 3D with all the lovely blocky polygons and all as well. So the graphics of this game really makes me think of the original Tekken game and just how blocky all the characters are. So it still pretty much plays like any of the other 2D Street Fighter games. It's just now that it's in 3D with this 3D environment that occasionally, shifts around a little bit whenever certain special moves happen in the game. Otherwise, it just plays, more specifically like Street Fighter Alpha with the little 3-level super combo meter bar at the top of the screen. Overall, it's pretty much like any other Street Fighter game. It's just got this new and, a bit different look. Definitely get it if you're a fan of the Street Fighter series, though. So then the next rental game that I found at this Goodwill was a copy of Sled Storm for PlayStation 1. So this is a snowmobiles extreme racing game. Each race rewards you with money to buy upgrades to improve your snowmobile. It's a 4-person racer where style is just as important as your lap times. You get points for doing tricks throughout the races, so both your points and your placement in the races are important to actually winning them. The tracks are also full of a bunch of different routes that you can take to rewarding those who explore them. Overall, it's surprisingly not too bad of a 90s extreme racing game, even if it is just a snowmobile racing game. Then the next rental game that I found was none other than a copy of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater for PlayStation 1. So this game here, I used to either own it or rent it or borrow it or something as a kid. I just remember playing a ton of this game. It was just very popular back in the day. Even though I really didn't care much about skating or skateboarding or anything like that. So if you've never played this game before, and you really should if you haven't, this game is just a nice mixture of extreme sports skateboarding in a sandbox environment. So each level just has like a bunch of different little challenges that you can complete. The game has just a very high amount of replayability. Plus, it has a really good soundtrack. So it's a lot of fun, and everyone should definitely have a copy of this game in their collection. I am just very glad to have it back into mine. Then yet another rental game that I found there was a copy of Rushdown for PlayStation 1. So this is yet another extreme racing game, but it has 3 different kinds. It has snowboarding, mountain biking, and kayaking. But unlike Sled Storm, this is a checkpoint game, so you aren't racing against anyone else, only against the clock. But this game is terrible It plays awful, it looks really bad, especially when games like ESPN Extreme Sports came out years before it and just play so much better. It's just not a very fun game, so avoid this one. So then the last game that I picked up was this copy here of NFL 2K1, and the main reason why I picked this up was because I very rarely find Dreamcast games. Plus, this game isn't exclusive to the Dreamcast, as there are no Madden football games available on the system. And that's everything I got to show for today. As always guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, as that always helps me out. Leave a comment down below if you want to talk about any of these games that I showed you today. And if you're new to the channel, then be sure to subscribe. And remember, you gotta get the power up to beat the game. Okay, so there's actually one additional thing that I want to talk about these games that I didn't notice until I pulled out my copy of ESPN Extreme Sports out. So, some backstory behind this game. There was a rental store in a town that I lived in, and this is where I bought that game. I bought it used there. And so, if you look at this game, I still have the sticker on it with the price that I paid for it. Apparently $10 back. I don't know, this is probably 15-20 years ago. When did this game come out? This game came out in 1995, so it's probably been about 20 years since I bought this game. But if you look on the inside, so here is the manual. You can see these stickers on here, and then if you also look here at the disc, it also has these stickers on the disc. Well, these stickers are the exact same stickers that are on the games that I picked up from this Goodwill. So if you look here, here I have the copy of Tony Hawk Pro Skater. It's got a similar kind of big sticker here on the front of this case, as well as what's on the copy of ESPN Extreme Sports here. And then if I pull out the disc itself, it's got the exact same barcode stickers here, as well as this, it says like PSX3 with an 8 above it. Here it says PSX number 8 with a 43 under it. These are the exact same stickers because I'm pretty sure these came from the exact same rental store. And the bottom of these stickers, here it says Action Video Movie. I don't really remember the name of the store that I bought this from, but I guess it was that rental store called Action Video Movie. But you know, I found these games in from the Goodwill from my hometown, so you know it's definitely possible, because I bought this in that same city, you know, probably 15-20 years ago. This came out in 1995, so I just wanted to mention this as a postscript note that I found rental games that I probably rented as a kid. Definitely maybe Tony Hawk here. I can't remember if I rented it or if I borrowed it from a friend. But this is very likely to be a game that I used to rent. It's not a bad game, but it does get pretty repetitive and kind of boring after a while. Boring. And just to show you the inside of the box, it does have the dead air time. It's definitely worth checking out if you like any of these 4 games. Overall, this is not a terrible handheld version of these games here. So the next was a copy of Star Wars Flight of the Falcon, and again, with the cartridge and manual, like the others, they look absolutely crisp. Crispy! Then the next one I got, so this game here is an on-rails shooter, kind of like Star Fox. I guess I should have that ready. Star Fox. Star Fox. But unfortunately, the game gets... So this is just yet another game that I cannot recommend. Then the last of these complete in the box games that I got. It reminds me a lot of... Can't believe I did that. But probably the absolute... So the Street Fighter EX series, which is one wasn't original... The very polygonal, I don't know what the word is. So this is a snowmobile. I said it right the first time. So this is a snowmobile. Then the next rental game that I found was a copy of none other than Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Then the next rental game that I found was none other. This game is just a nice mixture of extreme sport skateboarding. So the main reason I mean, that is pretty cool that I found some of my local rental game store stuff. That's just awesome. Bye.